In a fast-growing social media world, deciphering between the true, the authentic, and the honest individuals creating real disruptive changes in their industry has become very difficult. Many people are quick to flash the cars, the money, but very slow to give people the true wisdom they seek. This is why we started the Real Estate Disruptors, to bring you in front of the real disruptors, changing not only the barriers in their industries, but doing it and impacting millions of lives. Welcome to the Disruptor Network. For this episode, we wanted to do something a little bit different. We wanted to showcase disruptive women that are inspiring and changing many lives, and that have stories that resonate with millions of women around the world. So in honor for Women's History Month, we present to you these disruptive women. Everybody that asked you to come over here is because we really believe that every single one of you are real deal disruptors. And the reason why we started the show is to be able to show other people about people that are doing exactly what you're doing for your industries and being able to motivate other people, and especially motivate younger women to want to follow your steps and get to the level that you want to get to, right?
I just got goosebumps.
Oh, you should.
I was told go to college, get a career, get your master's. I did all that. At the end, not to reach financial success, or like there was no going up the corporate ladder. I taught college classes. I did it for 5 years. I've taught well over 500 students, college professor, and I said, okay, I need something else. I did a marketing agency. I still have it, but my partner runs it. And then the opportunity presented itself to work with Ralph and his team, and it was in real estate. And it was like, I think as a female, it's always hard to figure out, it's such a male-dominated industry. Where do I fall? How do I use my skills and my background, my experience, my marketing, and how do I like break into that industry? It's overwhelming, but I think what motivates me is when I see other women in higher positions and far advanced where I want to be, that motivates me.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you a quote that I heard the other day. It's by Martin Luther King, and it is, "We are not outnumbered, we're out-organized." So when you think about women and the influence and the power that we have, the reason why it's taken us so long to get to where we are is because we haven't organized. That's what it takes. Men do that all the time. They're always like, yeah, boy, got you. Like,
but don't you find that so many women say, I stand for woman empowerment, and I want to work with more females, but then they never do.
That was my paradigm until I walked into bigger rooms.
Yes.
I realized the women who were like that were usually in small rooms trying to get into the big room, and the competitiveness stopped them from actually helping each other and helping another woman that they claimed they wanted help.
Yes.
But once I got into the bigger rooms where the women were like half a billionaire and like about to hit their billions, or averaging $300,000 a month off of real estate, just residual income. When I got into those rooms, those women weren't just telling me how to help me. They were literally giving me the blueprint, and they were sitting me down and taking time out of their lives to make sure that there was another woman in that room with them. Because when you're in that big room, it's a lonely room when you're surrounded by just men.
You know what I'll add to this is I find that women, or just anyone in general, get intimidated by people who have a certain stature of success or have a certain level of income, instead of really thinking about it like they have the same struggles as you. Like their parents get sick like your parents. They wake up in the morning, they brush their teeth just like you. They have whatever they go through. And I think people forget to humanize each other, and instead they put them on these pedestals and they add this pedigree to them as if they're like superhuman.
I feel like that's what inspired me to become a real estate agent and just share my story. I feel that, when I first became so vocal about my struggles and just my life, it was easy because I wasn't meeting people. So I'm like, I don't care. Like, I'm just gonna throw out everything I have inside and just I'm gonna use it as therapy, and I'm just gonna be myself and help anyone else that it's going through the same thing I'm going through. But then it became harder when I started meeting people, and I'm like, oh shit, she knows my story. It was just like, because I'm so open with like the struggles of losing, my mom. My dad had died when I was 6, so then I became like an orphan at an early age, and I had a brother, and then just everything. It was just so hard. And like I said, living in Patterson when everyone just seemed like they weren't going anywhere. And I just felt like I truly did not belong. Everyone around me, my friends, everyone, it was just like, I felt so misunderstood for so many years. And I was just like, I don't know what to do. I think I'm going crazy. So I'm like, I just really genuinely don't think I belong here. I didn't know what to do. I was, my loans were kicking in. I had to bury my mom. It was so many expenses, and I worked in the bank industry. I bought my first home. That was like that's a long story, very, very short of it. I was pre-approved for $200,000. Lucky for me, because I was straight up out of college. I knew I couldn't afford the mortgage, and I knew what I owed on credit cards and stuff. So I'm like, I can't buy a one-family house. I have to live in a basement. So my whole focus was to buy a property that I could live in the basement and pay off my student loans and just breathe again. And that was my first investment.
And as you were mentioning earlier to us, you own 18 units.
Yes.
Yeah.
At
so
this
you're
point,
a real estate
yes.
investor also.
And yeah, so it took me a while to realize that that could be a career. So at first I just bought it and I thought, wow, like, this is awesome. Like, now I can live. Like, I was able, out of all my friends and group of friends, I was the one that could travel more. I was the one that was able to afford luxury items because now I didn't have to pay for rent, right? So that took a while, and then like it took someone to basically tell me like, like when are you buying the second? And I'm like, the second? I don't know. It just like it didn't occur to me. And then I decided to start saving for my second. And lucky for me, I bought in the perfect market because, like, again, I bought my first house for $190, the second for $170. That same house right now, you throw at me $600,000 and I wouldn't give it to you. So, those two houses, I basically, after I purchased them, I refinanced it, bought, did not spend $1 and just reinvested it and bought 3 more properties.
Very smart.
Beautiful.
And did not buy that Rolex. Did not buy that Rolex, which I really wanted.
Victoria, quickly introduce yourself as well.
Yeah. So my background is a little different. So I'm the first one in my family to graduate, the first one in my family to be an entrepreneur. And I started in corporate. I started on Wall Street, male-dominated industry as well. Started there, transitioned to healthcare, consumer product goods. I worked on legislation. I was in Washington and Albany a lot. And then 4 years ago, decided to bet 1,000% on me and became a full-time entrepreneur. And 4 years later, I have a consulting company where I work with Fortune 500 companies to build out strategic campaigns on how they attract, develop, and retain their talent. So they'll hire me to come in and do inclusion and diversity consulting, coaching, leadership and development training, and pretty much anything under talent management, and making sure that their employees are highly productive and have high morale and feel good about where they are so they can produce at a higher rate. And then in addition to that, a couple of years ago, and it's interesting that we were talking about this, I founded the Female Collaborative, which is a nonprofit focused on revolutionizing how women work and do business together. And what inspired me to start it was, to your point earlier, I kept finding myself at conferences and events with women, and they were just full of shit. And I was just like, what is going on here? Like, there was a lack of
conferences and events, by the way.
Yeah, there was. That's right. You've been at the
all they talk about is how they have to pamper themselves and take themselves to the spa. I was like, what if we did more than that?
Exactly. And not only that, they were making empty promises, which is even worse for somebody who's like really about this, and they're like, well, this is what I want to do. What's up? And they're like, yeah, email me. Let's do it. And then you email them and there's no follow-up. Like, to me, I felt like there was no, you don't need to say you're going to do it. Just say not at this time or whatever it is. And so I decided to create a hub for women where all of us have value, all of us have resources, but our intent is to collaborate and make some magic. Right. Make some money, build legacy, and most importantly, live life on our terms, because to me, that's true freedom. I'm not doing this for me, I'm doing this for you.
In short, I was raised in England, Manchester, England. And, so for me, I had the blessing of a parent who did know about money, who could teach me about real estate and investing, and showing me how he picked out properties. And by the time I was 15, I got my first paid internship to work at Credit Suisse. And I made sure I went above and beyond during my internship so that they would want to keep me. Eventually, when I became a mother, I decided to leave the corporate world because I couldn't work those crazy hours any longer. And I decided to become an entrepreneur. And long story short, as an entrepreneur, I was the person that I was like, okay, rather it's wholesaling in real estate and making calls and perfecting my script so I can get people to convince them to sell their house to me, and then finding the investor who had the actual money, going to brokers and telling them like, okay, you work where? Corcoran & Corcoran, Keller Williams, I'll bring you properties, give me a referral and the finder's fee. And then when I had enough money, starting to invest in these properties myself. Okay. And then beyond that, now going to a point where it's like I created an organization called Kids Who Bank, where we teach financial literacy in the school systems. Amen. And we actually just completed 278 schools during COVID in December 2020. So now 278 schools teaching financial literacy nationwide, which is exciting. Mm-hmm. And to wrap it up, I invest in real estate, and you know, I average 32,000 residual income monthly. Just off of my real estate portfolio, and that's just in counting. And that's also with me being a punk at times. And then that's not including investment banking or whatever, or just knowing that like last year we ended my portfolio asset and cash flow at 7.8 million, and knowing that realistically I did that brick by brick, and I didn't really have someone giving me the money to do these things. I had to really work hard for it.
Everyone is out for themselves. Let's speak in general, like what women are really facing. So the fact that you want to get to that room, you feel like you have to fight every single female, because the chance of that one female making it to that room, what are the percentage?
Well, I think now you made like 3 new sisters that can help you.
People may know her from HGTV, from working on multi-million-dollar projects, or from one of her iconic designs. She is a true disruptor who started with nothing to becoming one of the world's most celebrated and respected interior designers. We present to you Vanessa Deleon.
I truly believe that my upbringing shaped me to the woman that I am today. When I was growing up, I wanted to be successful, and I wanted to have more, and I wanted to achieve more. Being stagnant wasn't an option. I feel like when you come with, when you're growing up and you have trials and tribulations, the fact that you overcome them and you keep going higher and higher, that's a fulfillment that you can't even explain. You can't even, there's no words to that. So, and also in my youth, a lot of people doubted me, and the fact that I proved them wrong feels so good. And it's a really good satisfaction.
Yeah. Walk me through some of the challenges you faced to try to get to the level that you're at now.
I think the challenges that I faced, especially 20 years ago, because this is now 20 years that I've been in business, was that I would walk into a job site or potentially have a bid for a job site, and I would walk in and they would think I'm 12 years old. And I was young, and these people were like, okay, am I gonna trust her with a multi-million-dollar project? So that was a tough pill to swallow in the beginning of my industry, because then I would have to take things that I didn't necessarily like. I had to take things that I needed in order to make business happen.
Vanessa Deleon has gone on to firmly establish herself as a leading designer in home decor, with her unique mix of glamour and minimalism, or as she calls her style, glamalistic.
Yeah, it was trying to always prove myself. And I did anything and everything it took to prove myself. So, and then at that point, the proof is in the pudding. I had my first job, one of my biggest jobs. It wasn't my first, because I was decorating small little things, apartments, doing window treatments and beddings and accessories and stuff like that. But I had my big break in the beginning of my career with a big hedge fund guy. And he was building the house from the ground up, and I had the opportunity to do everything, even change the architecture inside. And that project kind of put me on the map as far as like design, got noted in front cover magazines, and it was a really substantial job. And the fact that I ended up having an opportunity to be on television for HGTV was also a big thing. I was on the first season of Design Star, so I feel like that really propelled my business as well. And it's a domino effect from there.
Before things get pretty, they're ugly. We're here today at the Show House in 2012 in New Jersey.
Vanessa, You're one of the best designers in the world.
And for a touch of glam, I added this little crystal pendant light.
Each project has something about it that I love, and I live vicariously through all my projects. Because I'm like, okay, if I had a farmhouse, this is how I would do my farmhouse. If I had a salon, this is how I would make a salon. If I had a barbershop, this is how I would make it. If I had a cigar lounge. So I live vicariously through these companies and through my clients. So I really, the process and the part of the project that I love is that my heart and soul goes into these projects. So I really, they all resonate with me. So there's not one project that I'm like, oh, I wish I didn't do it. I mean, in the beginning of my career, I could give you a slew of ones that I didn't want, right? But now I'm like, there's something about every single project that I love so much. And there's something that I look back on, even projects 5, 6, 7 years old, that still look so timeless. And that's hard to achieve as an interior designer. You have to know what's current and know that you can put these current things in the space, but you also have to know that they have longevity in these spaces. And that's a delicate balance to strike. And the fact that I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, this cafe is still so cool and I want to frequent it. And this office, this real estate office is so dope. Like I want to be here and like hang out and do my work in here. That feeling, it's undescribable. And I'm fortunate enough to like make my mark all over the world. The one that I'm actually working on now is the resident is going to live in there, but he purchased another one that we're renovating and he's going to sell it. So we're going to walk into like sort of a before and after. Dining room over there, the kitchen was on the other, it's like it was complete transformation. So now we're like delineating spaces. So this is going to be like a little sitting area with hanging chairs. This is gonna be the living room, so this will be the designated living space. And then over here, we're delineating the lines and creating this sort of soffit to segregate the spaces, but not closing them in. The vision's easy. I look at my client, I look at who they are. If I'm going to their previous home, if they're building something, or if I'm going to their home, I'll ask them to peek into their closet and see what they have as far as wardrobe, see if they're kind of like trendy, see if they're colorful, see if they're just, you know, all Gap and you know, J. Crew. I know then I can't show them flower powers, you know, on walls. But if I see a lot of psychedelic colors and a lot of graphic and a lot of print, I know that they're open to print. I know that they're open to color. That's how I become a psychic, essentially, for the project. When people ask me, well, how did you start? Man, it was a hustle. Every day was something new. Every day I would figure out different ways of getting into the doors of people and architects and builders and just sending them press kits and how did you get published? Knocking on those doors, sending them the press kits, sending them the packages, sending them, you know, my bio and projects, things that I was doing. I believe that you're your only competition. There could be many interior designers, but there's only one Vanessa.
Vanessa's just she's such a dope person because like she comes from very humble beginning, right? And then being able to be on HGTV showcasing and handling multi-million-dollar deals, you know what I mean, when it comes to interior design, which is like something that, it's a very small space.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to be in it, but it's a very condensed space.
No, it's a niche, yeah.
And it's very hard for you to make your name within it, you know, and it took her a while to be able to get that, but also build her confidence. And us talking about like habits, like her being able to have one of the #1 habits that we all, like all the disruptors that we've interviewed so far, it's like the consistency to want to be that person, like always be that person for their family, and like that she has to do it, like she had to succeed, you know what I mean?
It's funny, when you get around her too, what I realized about her is that, you know, you never know people until you meet them and have one-on-one conversations with them, but her purpose is very, very obvious when you start to talk to her, and she's like, she's trying to grow every single day. Mm-hmm. She's trying to build her business every single day. She's trying to build her brand every single day. When you get in front of her, it's in a very authentic way. Yeah, I'm on HGTV, and yeah, I'm designing for all these big people, and her husband runs a really successful restaurant, and like, but I'm nowhere near where I want to be. Like, she's not, like, it's not even a question. You know what I mean?
For sure. The pandemic was like a time that everybody needed to, the cleaners and the real disruptors, they pivoted and they decided to change their business in a different way, but never give up on it. You know what I mean? And just always go in the direction that they needed. And she did exactly what like we did. She said, I just doubled down and continued to do all the work possible. She literally said, I picked up every single deal that I was probably pushing aside because I was working on too many projects. She said she did every single deal that came through the door. She went and worked every single one of them and started working. She's like, at the end of the day, my leases still have to be paid off. Payroll's gonna happen. Like I can't give up any of my employees. She's like, and so she just put her head down and just worked and worked and worked.
I think my legacy would be, you know, this is a good one, because I always think of myself like, now that I have a son, you know, I want my legacy, I want to be remembered as like someone who was a phenomenal woman who gave back and, you know, conquered it all with nothing and came from nothing and became who she is today. And wow, look at her, like this is her legacy, this is my mom. Like when I think of my son, like when he thinks of me, like I want him to think like that way. Like I said before, I put so much love into everything I do that there's no reason for me not to be successful.